Hello, all. Oh, everyone's beginning to connect to audio. Just a sec. Hi, welcome everybody to the roundtable. Thanks for attending the session so far. It was really a pleasure to get to be a part of it and to be with Daniel and Peter on it. And right now we're missing our moderator, Dan. So I'm going to step in for just a moment as a moderator. And when he pops up, if he manages to find his way to us, then I will bow out of that. But right now, I just wanted to open up for any questions that people had. I feel you can just put into the chat and we'll take from the chat. But also, if down at the very bottom, you can see that there's a reaction. Put your hand up, or I don't know. I don't think they have. You can just unmute. We've got enough people in here that we can just unmute and feel free to ask your question. But here we have one. Here's from Laurel. Your panel is extremely valuable and fascinating. I often wonder how much to tell potential investors and or funders and how many of those organizations to reach out for after selecting more. Please provide some advice on how to go about these conversations. So I'm wondering, Laurel, if you're speaking from the perspective of a business person looking at, yeah, you are. Do you want to unmute and just tell us a little bit more about your question?
Hi, thanks. Yeah, just in general, I know you mentioned so many interesting pieces. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, can you hear me great.
And so, you know, do you just kind of put it out to all of those organizations if you have an idea and have developed that idea somewhat? Because I realize, like, I don't want to give away a whole idea. Not that any idea is ever original, but yeah, just trying to figure out how to manage those conversations when it may be with a few different organizations at once to get the ball rolling on moving something forward.
I'm going to just pass this to Peter because Peter does lots of coaching and work with entrepreneurs and connecting to investors. I'm wondering if you want to do the first stab and then we can pass over to Daniel.
Thank you.
Where do you live?
Campbell River.
Do you know about the Angel Group in Campbell River?
I do.
Have you talked to them?
I'm submitting an idea to the competition that they're hosting through NextStream, and then a couple of other ideas that I have aren't necessarily going to fit in that particular competition.
Right. And have you talked to Innovation Island?
Not specifically. So this is kind of answering my question though. Do I ask them all at the same time?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Here's what's interesting, and I'll kind of say this to everybody. So how it really works is investors talk to other investors. And so you really need that lead investor that gets excited to help you and move you through the process. But you can pitch your idea all day long, but really it's finding that investor that has a network of other investors that really wants to help you. And so each community usually has somebody like they're recognized or it's an organization. But what you want to do is you want to kind of test it out, get it right, and then move it around. But there's quite a few on Vancouver Island, both that are known and unknown, and yeah, so I think you do want to talk to them all. But certainly welcome to send stuff to any of us. I mean, we can certainly give you some feedback. But yeah, you want to connect with all the different groups for sure.
Okay. Daniel, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, echoing Peter's comments, I think that my first stop would be Innovation Island. If you're, when you're outside of Victoria, I think, I would suggest that you have as many conversations with as many people as you can. And then, as Peter said, then suddenly you start expanding that network, and somebody will know somebody that is interested in that type of business. But yeah, I think the first stop should be Innovation Island.
Okay. Daniel, I'm going to keep with you for the next question. How do you think a credit union could step up? Do they have what kind of restrictions do they have based on risk?
It's interesting. I was just reading that question, and first thing is I'm no expert at credit union regulations, so I'm not certain what they can and can't do. Certainly, like any other financial institution, right, where there needs to be some collateral, for them to be able to lend money out. And as we know, that's in many cases the difficulty with accessing those funds. But there are other programs, right? Like Peter mentioned, and I go back to Innovation Island and all these entities that support entrepreneurs, IRAP, and any other of the funding that they may have available, and that they can provide advice to investors. So I'd say probably need more information as to what Michael is trying to accomplish here. And it's interesting enough, I already got 3 emails, and I'm already after the previous session, and I'm having 3 conversations with people next week. So always happy to chat.
Dan, I see you've arrived. Do you want to?
Yes. Hi there. Sorry about that, everyone. My misunderstanding. So are we just keeping the mics open here, or are we doing? Are we taking questions from chat?
We've been taking the questions from chat, and so we just got to questions about credit unions. So, yeah, if I could build on that, I would say that specifically for nonprofits and charities, is that one of the challenges they have in accessing capital is the need for collateral, and that sometimes, in that structure, when we've gone as social enterprises, so operating businesses, those businesses are generating revenue, but we need to access capital to grow, is that if they're operating within a nonprofit or charitable structure, often the volunteer board members have been asked to provide that collateral, which is not really desirable from a volunteer board member to put their house up for a social enterprise. And so that requirement of capital has been required collateral has blocked a lot of really great social enterprise ideas from taking place. So I think that is some of that risk profile does create a slow down some access to capital. And Jill asked me a question, has asked a question a couple of times about our Thrive Fund with VIEA. So we're looking at being able to open up, we're in conversations right now with different types of investors. It's an early stage in terms of just testing and gaining an idea and seeing where the interest is. We've had some, good interest from our investors and some early commitments. So that's been great. We will be focusing on accredited investors, so foundations, university endowments, some of those institutional investors, family offices, high net worth individuals. So just for the requirement of the fund, but we are also exploring community bonds as a way for other way to bring in more local impact investment from people who are not accredited investors. So we will make a bit of a noise and announce when we're ready we're in our process of our raise, as well as when we start to deploy. But happy to chat about it. Like right now, lots of conversations, so happy to have a conversation.
So did all of our panelists respond to that question?
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to the credit union question. It poses a good question. And with the mortgage products, we did quite a bit of work around this. And I would say co-ops in general, but credit unions specifically, when they can't offer a financial product, because they're community-based and member-driven, there's nothing stopping them from communicating the product in their regulations. So I think that's probably where I would put some thought into the co-op movement and the credit unions. So things like Thrive on Vancouver Island, could the credit union promote it and kind of have that tides rise all ships kind of mentality, especially as this sector and impact and social finance is challenging enough to get off the ground. So I think the credit union plays a role in convening and connecting and marketing and support. But from a lending point of view, they have very strict regulations, and I know some of them do some equity investing, but it's not going to be in, you know, startups at the local level for sure.
All right. Any more questions? I don't. If you could put your questions in the chat, and I can ask them on your behalf, that would be great.
And the other thing is, you know, happy if somebody wants to, you know, share their idea with the whole group. I mean, we can certainly go through, you know, Laurel, that's something for you. You know, if you're comfortable sharing any of your ideas, we can certainly go through one right here with everybody just to show you what the process looks like.
Well, that's a pretty big ask. I guess it's not, you know, and like that's part of this as well, is that idea that, you know, who do you tell an idea to in case someone, you know, there's always a bit of that element of competition. And if somebody else is thinking of doing it and then I share that idea and they're like, oh, right. And then they do it first, which I guess means I just wasn't on it as I should have been.
Serial entrepreneur for 30 years. I can honestly tell you, go ahead and take any of my ideas and run with them, because I know that's a very common feeling that you're having. Mm-hmm. It's like, you know, show up at my house on Christmas Day 5 years ago and ask me if you really want to be in business, you know, and we make it look easy to the outside, but people don't realize it's 24/7. I mean, everyone would be doing it if it was easy. So theory of stealing ideas, I mean, obviously that's happened or it wouldn't be a thing, but I don't think it happens very much. Anyone in the financial sector, like, we don't sign non-disclosure agreements because they actually have to be managed legally. So we'd have a filing cabinet full of them that would actually need, you know, corporate law to manage them. And so most financial people really go on their reputation. So we're not in the business of taking ideas. So I think whenever you're telling your idea to somebody that works for an agency like Innovation Island or somebody that invests, you know, the chances of them taking the idea and running with it are pretty slim. So I'd like to know how many people have actually seen that happen.
Well, and also I would say that when people see good ideas, I mean, part of the beauty of being connected into a local economy, into an area, is you begin to see that hey, I heard about this idea, and investors can begin to talk to each other, and so it can do a little bit of your work for you in sharing that idea out. But somebody also gave me really good perspective on this, because I was like, you know, what happens if we put our ideas out into the world and people steal our ideas? And it's also like, those ideas are a dime a dozen. It's the implementation that is where the rubber hits the road. Implementation of good ideas is a long road. It is not easy to implement the ideas, and implementation also turns up in so many different ways, right? So you can have the idea, but how it works and your business model and who your customer is and how you deliver and your value offered, like all of those things are unique and begin to be the unique stamp of your idea of how it comes to life in the world. And I find that those are a little harder, like it's a little harder to replicate. Some ideas are very easy to replicate, but many are not easy to replicate. Even a restaurant, right? Restaurants are like, they're everywhere, but they're so hard to replicate. And so each of them their own idea. So I think it's like, you can hold your idea, hold your intent of your idea, you know, tightly, but hold the delivery a little bit loosely to allow your idea and the implementation to come to life.
I'll put it out there, but I also don't want to monopolize the conversation. So if other people have questions, go ahead. And then if not, I'll put it out there.
Go ahead, Laurel.
Okay, so we don't have glass recycling on Vancouver Island. And from a waste management perspective and just the general resources that are needed to bring that product off island to potentially be recycled or not is something that has come up a lot of times, just in just in various, organizations that I've been a part of, or even just home recycling, and wondering where that glass goes, and thinking of, how we consume and reuse resources. So we're looking at the viability of creating a system on the island that facilitates that, and ideally having it in Campbell River, because that's where I live and I love it here. So,
Where now?
Pardon me?
Where does it go now?
Apparently it goes to the mainland, and as far as I understand, there's no more glass recycling facility in BC even. So we think it maybe actually goes in the landfill, but maybe just indirectly because we're under the facade.
Do you know Mark Stewart?
I know some of the Stewarts, like with Uplands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bet you that's something they would take on.
Okay.
So here's how my brain works. So a lot of that glass recycling, if it's not being put into glass, goes into paving. And so the way I would look at it is doing the analysis, reverse engineering it. What do you do with the recycled glass once you've crushed it and turned it back into silica or a powder, whatever you're doing with it? And I bet you if you talk to the Ministry of Highways, all the blacktop contractors kind of came up with a business plan, and then went to someone like Mark and said, hey, I've got this great business opportunity for you. He's got the resources and the land to do it. Mm-hmm. And then the next piece is, from an economic development or social enterprise, figure out what you can do with the value add or higher value glass. Mm-hmm. Could you actually reuse that and start making products with it? That kind of thing. Like what could you do with it? Mm-hmm. As a value add? You probably could create a whole industry around recycling glass in Campbell River. But I always look at it as, what are all these partnerships? So, for in your situation, you're not, telling me that you've got intellectual property on a technique that's going to crush glass. You're telling me you've got a recycling opportunity. So that's more, that's not a investable idea from a venture capital point of view, but it's very much an investable idea of business people that already, have businesses in that region or in that community. I would say if you found somebody that sees the, it's a add-on to what they're already doing, right?
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I'm from Campbell River, by the way, so I'm not that.
Nice.
I know everybody in the world.
Nice. Thank you. I appreciate the response.
That's
and the encouragement to just put it out there, because it's true. You just got to say it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Unless you've got $5 million burning a hole in your pocket.
I don't.
Hey Laurel, it's Jennifer here from Innovation Island. Thanks, Peter. Absolutely happy to chat with you. Share your concern. We hear this all the time. Someone will take my idea. Can you share it? Happy to have a conversation. There are lots of different programs that we offer, and if we can't help you, we can certainly connect you through too. So I've connected with you on the app, and you have my email there. So
awesome. Happy
to chat more. Yeah,
thank you.
You're welcome.
I also want to just highlight that one of the biggest learnings that I've had around sort of some of this dynamic intention is that when you bring forward an idea that is solving a real world and a real problem in the world, there are people who are so thankful that you are taking that challenge on, that it's a real gift, right? And so that becomes an opportunity. It's real opportunity for people to get to invest and support really good projects and initiatives, because they might not have the skills or the capacity or the time or the ability to actually bring forward that solution, but they may have the ability to support bringing forward that solution, and that has deep meaning. So I think really looking at and understanding that when you are providing a real and true solution to a real and wicked problem, that it is an opportunity, it is a gift. And so coming into those relationships, trying to find a fit. So then it just becomes about a fit, about is that matching what you need and what I need, what you offer, what I offer. So it takes a little bit of the pressure out, because you really want to make sure it's a fit.
Awesome. Thank you.
And thank you, Danielle, for highlighting the Women's Enterprise Center. There's Futurepreneur, there's different, there's BDC, there's other types of organizations and enterprises that are supporting entrepreneurs to get up and off the ground. They all are slightly different, right? And so it's looking at what it is, and ideally you sort of tap into everyone you can, right? Because it's great people who are there to support your work. And so it's for everybody. I'm just like, yeah, like talk to everybody. I mean, we just joined everything when we started up stuff. We join everything, we make connections, we take the advice that we can that's relevant. We just tap into as much as possible. There's lots of great resources.
Thanks.
I just had a quick question. I'm Andreas from the Vancouver Island Community Investment Co-op, and we've discussed a lot, and there was a lot of good information being shared with regard, pretty much coming from the capital and fund flow perspective, but from the perspective of project sourcing, of identifying those who need capital or debt, in particular, is there a go-to facility? Is there something that exists already, or are there organizations that can point in one direction or another? I remember Peter earlier talking about Basma at UVic, who I think has started creating a database of trying to bring capital and borrowers together. But I hear a lot about capital being available and being very cheap at the moment, but everybody tells me, where are the projects?
The two biggest barriers that has been researched is that entrepreneurs are saying they can't find capital and investors saying they can't find projects to invest in. That seems like, when I see stats like that, I'm like, okay, that's a very interesting challenge to have. My guess is we have to talk about the right kind of capital at the right stages. That's matching that there's a process problem in there a bit, not just, the desire for capital is not always enough. We generate our own deal flow, I would say, right? Like we develop programs and incubate that support the kind of organizations and businesses that we want to support to become stronger, so that we know them, they're coachable, we understand the leadership, and then that provides us an ability to then invest in them. And we're doing this fund because we saw so many of these great projects hitting this capital gap and not getting investments when we knew they had good projects, we knew they had a revenue generation, we knew they had good leadership, but they were not able to access the capital. So we're trying to solve that problem that we see. And also on the Vancouver Island wide, we launched an event a year ago called Connect Money Impact, which was bringing together impact investors with impact entrepreneurs. You guys spoke at it. Thank you for being one of the panel members on there. But to find opportunities for networking and connection, because there are, we were seeing great enterprises coming from TASIS and coming from Gold River and coming from places where those networks don't exist. And so by providing events, and Peter talked about that a bit, like that event-based financing, finding ways for people to connect, is something that we all need to continue to do, and to connect into the other incubators and supports and programs that are providing support to entrepreneurs.
Thanks very much.
Daniel, do you want to add to that? I feel like you probably know about
Yeah. Well, I was laughing or smiling when you said about funds not having access to enough projects and entrepreneurs not having access to capital, because it's true. And I can say that I've been involved with a few Vancouver Island-based businesses, and the response typically tends to be quite positive, right? And granted, all those that we have helped are beyond the idea phase. They have, a serious business plan and at the very minimum. And I think a couple of months ago, we reached out to a fund out of the Netherlands that we read about online, and you message them, and the day after they respond asking for a meeting. And that's I also believe that all those that are, you know, true entrepreneurs will find their way to figure it out, right? And, you know, with the help with Innovation Island, and you said BDC and Community Futures and a number of other organizations that can help out. But yeah, that at least has been my experience.
Any more questions or innovative ideas?
I just wanted to make a quick comment. It's Jennifer here at Innovation Island. I believe that there will be some money coming down from the province if you read what's going on with their Stronger BC program. And I do think that we'll start to see more and more things for small business. So just keep your eyes and ears out from, you know, Small Business BC. We try and keep on top of everything that comes down that touches tech, and then also small business as well. So just, I think there's going to be some more money for small businesses.
All right. Well, thanks very much, everyone. Thanks for joining the roundtable and the session beforehand. Thank you again to the three of you. You've done a great job today. Lots of great information here. And this is all recorded too, so you can come back and refer to it in the future. So thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night. Bye.
Take care.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.